yesterday or the day before with a significant change to the plan that would have wiped out last year's loss. Now, that sounds good, and it sounds like an immediate victory. What bothers me about that is they can do that without changing any element of the plan. So how much are they really overcharging us? And that's what we're going after now.
I appreciate you doing that. You mentioned this as being a model plan for academic institutions. What comparison benchmarks do you do with peer institutions, and are those that run their plans running $3 million deficits annually and not raising premiums and 1.7 over 3 years? Is that normal with other peer institutions?
I don't know any logical person running a health plan in the last 12 years that would have lowered premiums.
None.
So that's there. We do compare, and we compare to a group of both peer universities. That is who we compete with for faculty and research, those 13. But we also look at an additional 8 to 12, mostly in the areas where health insurance is facing kind of the same demands we're facing, places like Indiana, Ohio, Alabama, and we compare our design to theirs. Most of those universities do not have a self-designed, self-managed plan. This is somewhat unique. What they do is they'll go to a Cigna or an Aetna or United Healthcare and say, I want to self-insure, you give me that design. What makes ours different, for good or bad, is that it is designed specifically for LSU.
My question is that do we know if it's good or bad? Because we were unique in having a charity hospital system, which I think was bad from the days of Huey Long, and we're out of that. So do we want to stay the course in this unique program, or should we be looking at the models that other institutions use?
I would argue that 3 years from now, or actually 2 more years from now, we have to make that decision. There were years, not in that distant a past, where we actually had a surplus, can't call it a profit, of $8 million. The following year, the plan lost 5. That was around 2011. Probably the brakes should have been put on, and what we're doing now should have been done then. But I would argue with this that if our reserves are below $30 million 2.5 years from now, we have to begin to think about whether or not we should be in the health insurance business.
I'm just saying, I don't know much about health. I know healthcare costs are continuing to skyrocket, and with baby boomers and everybody else. And so the question is that it's a high risk and responsibility with the self-insurance fund that we're taking on, because as you just said, 1 year, boom, you have things that hit that can wipe out the reserves, and we're on the hook. We're changing a lot of the ways we do in business right now at LSU and in the state, and so the question is should we limit who's in this program to just LSU and shut the doors?
We have a moratorium on non-LSU people joining as a result of the legislature. Right, outside of the legislature. I mean, by that, we're not going to add other...
So next year, when you said OGB goes up, nobody else can jump?
No. We have memorandums of understanding with the legislature. Those people that are in OGB plans, that are in legislative offices, can switch over.
Just legislative offices?
Right. We're not going to add...
Or other agencies?
The auditor, the fiscal office, the houses of the legislature themselves. The program exists because of a memorandum of understanding between LSU and the Division of Administration back in 2002, whenever it got started. That memorandum of understanding required that the House and the Senate members and staff be allowed to participate in the plan. It also required at that time anybody who left LSU or the legislature who was covered by LSU first to continue to be covered by LSU first if they went to another state agency. We're actively working to limit that latter category, and basically we put a freeze on that so that won't happen as we move forward. The House and the Senate and the legislative offices, you're far more familiar than I with the political issues involved with touching that.
Well, I think, again, as you said, we've got a couple years, and as the Madam Chairman and Finance and Dan King, I think we just need to look down the road to decide whether or not this is something we need to get out of, or is this going to benefit us, or do we want to eliminate the risk and go with because there's a lot of providers out there that are saying, hey, we do this for other universities, and you don't have to run it yourself or manage it yourself or take the risk yourself.
Well, that last part is probably not as accurate as the first part. We don't have to run it ourselves. We don't have to design it ourselves. But we will be hard pressed to find an insurance company that's not going to seek to have us hold the risk. That is, whether we go with a plan managed by someone else and designed by someone else, we're going to be self-insured. That's not, the market's not going to allow us
That may-
at an affordable rate to buy insurance. We're going to have to own that risk.
And we are working very diligently to
cap that
harness
risk.
the power of the market as much as we possibly can. And let me give you one example of what we're doing in the pharmaceutical realm right now. The way pharmaceutical benefits contracts are designed historically is they guarantee you that you're going to achieve an overall discount off of the average wholesale price, which is somewhat of a mythical number, of 75%, for example. And AWP is like the sticker price on the car. You're an idiot if you pay that, right? And so, but they don't guarantee that your costs are actually going to be down here or up there or whatever. It's just going to be a discount over what they pay for the drugs in theory. So for example, to lower your costs, you've got to have your staff kind of policing every little decision, every little component. As an example, we've got mail order refills. And until we caught this recently, they had this logic where basically after they required you to get a 3-month supply of your drugs in the mail. At the end of 2 months, they sent you another 3-month supply. By the end of the year, we had paid for 16 months of drugs in the last 12 months. Terrible, right? And our staff has worked very diligently to catch that kind of thing. But you're absolutely right. That is not our core expertise. Our people should not have to catch that. The problem is that historically, and this is not unique to LSU, this is common to all of these PBM contracts, is that the financial incentives of the PBM and the customer are not aligned. They don't make money by saving us money. And so we're aggressively exploring and have found, the people we talk to say it's cutting edge but doable, and we found companies willing to talk to us about this, where they guarantee us, that our average per member per month price is going to be X dollars. And there's a penalty if they don't meet that, and then we share the savings if they exceed that, so that we don't have to worry about catching, we fix that particular problem with the mail order refill logic, but we want to get the market, we want to get the private sector having an incentive to save us money, and that's the direction we're looking at, because you're absolutely right, that is not, figuring all those little details out is not cost effective for us to be engaged.
Please continue forward and doing what you're doing, and
We
have
can
a
assure you this.
good report at the end of the year, then when kudos will be dispensed.
Our method of negotiating with our vendors has changed dramatically. We are now saying that LSU is a brand that companies will want to be associated with. That's why we're interested in more newer and younger companies. WebTPA knows that we are their largest customer, so they pick up the phone when we call. Cigna, we had to have a lawyer call. We also have taken a different direction in how we negotiate. That is, my background is in negotiating 220 labor contracts with unions at other universities. So my belief is we develop what we want, we make the demands, and they have to meet it. We have a rather aggressive group of people who've gotten quite good at that. I will tell you, this is an awkward industry. I took this over on November 25th, 2013. By January 2nd, I had been invited to the Sugar Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, the Super Bowl, and a trip to Florida. I'm a basketball fan, and it's hot enough in Louisiana. That's all we can tell people. But we have decided that relationships are not as important as the bottom line, and we believe that's the direction we're going. So I assure you, we are being as aggressive as, we're probably being more aggressive than polite.
Well, I'll give you kudos now for that, so thank you very much.
The truth of the matter is, surely in our finance committee and this board is keen on this, watching it. We are engaged, and so that alone will beg questions, and I know I'm not short of those. So
We appreciate the report too and all the numbers.
on Cigna, just one quick question. Then, how long did they do that? Where you found the savings, and I don't know if Mr. Skinner has to answer this or if he even knows, but how far can you go back to get what they? first of all, 900, I mean, anybody who has a business realizes that there are people who, for a month, 3 months, a quarter, 6 months, whatever, have somebody on there who was either fired, let go, left, and but to these numbers, I mean, those are, how far can you go back on savings they were supposed to give? And how far back can you go if we're insuring employees that no longer exist? How long have you gone back?
And it's a three-step process. First of all, it was created because they failed to accurately reflect the change in the membership of the plan when the hospitals were moved off the plan. So they kept people on. Obviously not, obviously wasn't,
So within 12 months. You're not talking about 5 years ago we did the same
It
problem?
was about a 14-month period. We believe we've gotten about everything we could out of them. I mean, I suppose there might have been another $100,000 or $200,000 on the table, but we were looking at legal costs then that would have far exceeded that. The second piece of this, and I think this is extremely important, is that prior to taking over the plan, we did quarterly reviews of membership, and now we do them daily.
So quarterly, you did quarterly, but we went 14 months before it was found?
They didn't catch it.
That's impossible. So you have 900 and something people when you have somebody?
Well, Mr. Ballard, I would indicate that they were supposed to do quarterly. My guess is they didn't do them because we found it within the first week of taking the plan over.
Okay, good. Any other questions? Nope. All right, that was just a presentation. So Dan, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Scott, can I just have a point of clarification? The reserves that we're talking about are reserves that are specific to LSU First. They're not university reserves. Yeah. And those are reserves that have accrued in the past. And one of the challenges 2 years ago were those reserves were coming down so quickly that in 2 more years of that decline, we'd been drained completely.
Good question. So our caps are 750,000. That is our cap. So
700.
700.
self-insured is my point. Okay.
And we're exploring whether to continue in that model or have a overall aggregate stop loss.
That was going to be my question. But yeah, and I agree with you. There's no way you can't not have, it will never be feasible, especially in today's world with insurance, where you don't self-insure up to X. I mean, it just wouldn't be affordable.
Right, but we were insuring at $250,000, and that was simply a waste of money.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It completes.
Does that conclude your committees?
Yeah, that completes, Madam Chair, Finance. Thank God.
Thank you very much. The next committee we will have is Property and Facilities, Mr. McAllister.
Okay, would
And
you
if
call the roll?
I can remind anyone that's speaking up at the podium, if they would speak into the mic, because we are streaming.
Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Mr. McAllister?
Here.
Mr. Ballard? Here. Mr. Angel?
Here.
Mr. Crane? Here. Mr. Danos? Here. Mr. Jacobs?
Here.
Mr. Lawton? Here. Mr. McCrary? Here. Mr. Perry? You have a quorum.
Thank you. Madam Chairman, we only have 2 items. The first agenda item is a request from the LSU Agriculture Center for approval to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with the Louisiana Department of Agriculture and Forestry and the Louisiana Agriculture Finance Authority to jointly operate space in the Agriculture Chemistry Building on the LSU A&M campus. Annie?
Thank you. The building we're talking about here is the brick building with the green metal roof next to the Parker Coliseum. It was built in 1990, funded by the Louisiana Department of Agriculture and Forestry. It was part of a 25-year CEA they had with LSU, and it has expired. And at the end of that CEA, they donated it to LSU. And this CEA will continue to define the relationship of how we jointly occupy that building with the Department of Agriculture and Forestry. And the terms of the CEA are 5 years with a 1-year, 5-year renewal. And LDAF will pay 50% of the actual maintenance cost. And they'll also set up a major repair reserve account. And the equipment that is in the building will retain ownership by the LDAF. And that's it. And we recommend approval.
Councilor Richardson, you good with this?
Yeah, this is a good deal. We've the president just signed off on the transfer of the building to us. This accord and endeavor agreement continue to operate. One of the nice things we're getting is in, I think, the third floor of the building, about 13,000 square feet, that now will be made available to us, and we're looking at some things we would like to move into there and trying to find the funds either privately or whatever to do that. So this is a good deal. We're glad to get this done.
Great, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
So moved. Stan? Second by Mr. Danos. Any discussion? Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion's approved. The next item is simply a presentation on the LSU Campus Master Plan. I think you all have a copy here of the document front, and I think they'll put it on the screen for all those folks watching online, streaming.
Thank you, Mr. McAllister. This is, as Mr. McAllister said, this is an update on the campus master planning process that we're currently within, that began last year, January of 2014. We're about at the halfway point with regard to all of the various facets of the campus master planning process, and thought it would be a good time to come forward and update you on where things are. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tony Lombardo, who's our Associate Vice President for Facilities and who is helping to lead this effort. Thank you.
I want to thank the board today for the opportunity to address you here. Let's go to, do I do this? Tough to read. So, to refresh on some of the background on this project, we last completed a master planning program in 2003 with minor updates in 2006. This plan has been instrumental in developing the campus over the last 10 years. It's been the governance document for building placement for the growth of the campus. There have been continual updates in the form of district plans in support of the master plan. Some of the notables are the Ag Center Master Plan, the Hill Farm District Master Plan, Nicholson Development District Master Plan, the Campus Edge Definition and Gateway Plan, Parking and Traffic Plan, and Residential Life Master Plan Update. We've also been continually working on about 15 others. The first slide is basically the high-level view of the campus with the white buildings noted as opportunities for growth on the campus. This 2003 rendering represents a starting gross square foot of 5.2 million square feet with an anticipated 10-year growth of 16%. In 2014, the rendering shows the current gross square foot of 7.1 million square feet for an actual growth rate of 23%, 7% more than what was anticipated 10 years before. Our current growth reporting suggests that we will continue at the current 23% or so over the course of 10 years. The process goals for developing the next campus plan have been clearly articulated to the campus, and are that it must be mission-driven, comprehensive and strategic, transparent, well-communicated, inclusive, and thorough. Nearly all of this was the charge on the 03 plan, although the thoroughness is much more aggressive in the new plan. It is inclusive of much greater detail or information on space and how it's used, as well as infrastructure conditions on the campus. This is driven by the idea that usable growth can be had by increasing the efficiency of the existing footprint and reducing the total additional space needed for the required mission. That may give us an opportunity to meet the needs over the next 10 years while reducing that 20% growth, because those percentages do add cost to the campus. The organizational structure for the master planning groups are on the slide above. Once again, I want to thank Mr. McAllister for committing his personal time and leadership as a member of the Executive Oversight Committee, which is the group led by Dr. Lazelle that's kept a watchful eye on the process and has been the beneficiaries of presentations and updates by various consultants and the university teams working on the plan. The working group, which I chair, is managing the work teams, the stakeholders, the process goals, and the overall schedule. The support and facilitation group, staffed by our planning, design, and construction group, is directly initiating the work. To date, the effort has been very collaborative, and it is a testament to all the stakeholders on the A&M campus. So to look at the schedule, we are tracking right to the original plan and what was presented months back. The housing, dining, and parking assessments are complete. The College of Science plan is underway. The space assessment has assessed 91 buildings, 4.5 million square feet over a 6-week period. They've verified building names, room numbers, room use classification codes, department assignments, program structures, and codes. The floor plan discrepancies are being corrected. We found far less discrepancies than we expected to find, which was a pleasant surprise. The square footage discrepancies are being verified and will be completed by the end of May. And once FAC verification and utilization data is complete, our consultant will compile reports for the college verification. The infrastructure assessment is just kicking off. The kickoff meeting was held April 30th. Powerhouse to Art Quad pilot area will be done first to present the proposed deliverables, which gives us the opportunity to adjust as necessary how we complete that assessment so that we get maximum amount of data for the campus to make decisions on. The field work will be May 25th through August, and expected completion January 2016. The parking assessment is complete, primarily an assessment, not a plan. The plan portion will be taking place as part of this master plan, as well as through our asset optimization team, which will be reporting in June. The comprehensive master plan, we are developing the RFQ now and ready to distribute internally for review, and expect to make a consultant selection late summer and begin in the fall. The high level, we're tracking to the timelines. We have not found any major outstanding surprises in what we are finding with our consultants, and we feel like we're going to keep this on schedule and have our next master plan completed on the timeline. In closing, I want to thank the board for the opportunity to discuss this, and I can answer any questions you may have.
Any questions?
Yes, sir.
No?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate that. You mentioned a 16% growth. You talked about a 23% growth rate. I'm not sure that was the 2003 study versus the latest study. Is that specific, is that a growth in square footage demands or student enrollment?
That is strictly square footage.
Square footage.
And so the 2003 plan estimated that we would grow the 16%, and in looking back over the last 11 years, it was actually 23. So if you look at...
I'm sorry, but the 2003 study estimated that over a 10-year period of time, you would have a 16% growth in square footage?
Correct.
And that's a total square footage? Is that an air-conditioned square footage? Is climate-controlled square footage?
Gross square footage.
Gross square footage. And you actually, during that 10-year period, actually grew 23%?
Correct.
So During that time period, I'm assuming that the entrance requirements to the university actually went up. The admission requirements, I should say, went up. I'm not real clear on what the enrollment numbers did, but in spite of the fact that our entrance or admission requirements went up, we still had a significant increase in our demand for square footage here.
Correct.
Does that include sporting facilities? When you talk about square footage, if we got a new baseball field, does that add into there?
That is just educational in general, does not include the auxiliaries.
Right. Okay. All right. And regarding the master plan, are we doing similar master planning for some of the other campuses in our system?
This was the first campus we started.
We started this in 2003.
No, that was the last one done. I don't know if anyone's done at the other campuses. Have we?
LSUA is just done.
LSUA has just finished theirs.
The other campuses have done several, Health Science Center New Orleans, Health Science Center Shreveport. They've all done pretty much a master plan. They maybe don't have quite the growth or the renovations and changes that the main campus here has, but most all of them have a master plan. LSU Alexandria is very active right now, doing one right now.
So Tony, in your work, you are strictly working on the Baton Rouge campus situation, is that right?
That's the scope of this particular master plan, the A&M campus, inclusive of the ag properties, which they also have a master plan, so this won't significantly change their plan, but it will be inclusive in the total reporting.
Do we have anybody at home office working with the various campuses that you mentioned?
Well, we have the master plans. We work with them directly on any capital outlay projects that they have, and we get a couple every year maybe for some of the campuses. Some of the campuses don't get anything, so we work with them on what they have.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate that, but the master plan is more than a capital outlay request. I certainly appreciate Tony's presentation on the Baton Rouge campus. My question I think I'm trying to get to is, are the other campuses basically left to do their master plan on their own, or is there support from home office here? I'm trying to see how integrated. There has to be a lot of lessons learned in Tony's work, an incredible work effort to try to get something done. Or are we sharing those things with our other
Part of the realignment is to handle that, to get us to work with Tony's group with more of the other campuses. So that is something that we will be doing as we go forward.
I've already begun the dialogue with the other campuses and are assessing what they have in place now, and we will be moving in that regard as their needs require in the future.
And just going back to the other series of questions, when you talk about that 23% growth rate over 10 years, do the simple math, whatever, 2.3% a year in terms of the need for additional square footage, knowing that there are challenges that are out there for us to keep up with that demand, how do we look at not only the need that you've again addressed at this level, but how do we fulfill that need if that can't be fulfilled with construction dollars?
Well, that is why we are doing such aggressive utilization studies for this right now, and why we haven't even engaged in the final master plan or contract yet. We want a report card, if you will, of where we are today in terms of utilization and infrastructure, because I absolutely would like to grow the usefulness of the space without growing the square footage as much as we can. So part of this plan is to improve our efficiency. We have a growth report that we're overlaying this on student counts and space per student, and we have all of that kind of information as well. It was roughly 400 square foot per FTE student in 1994. It dipped dramatically when our entrance standards started rising, and so it got under the 350 mark in about 98.
years we need to repaint. You know, we need to micro that. And I, for one, would not mind having the information and would carry that torch with others, because it is going to blow up. So
It is, and we're certainly watching that, and is one of our largest concerns. You know, with higher ed at 4, you look at the commercial building population that's running at about $7 a square foot. So higher ed in general is at a deficit, and we're even farther than that right now. And ultimately, we are borrowing against the future condition of the assets by not addressing those
you're
budgets.
going to address it more, just give us the simple, stupid sheet, so when we're walking, I can pull it out of my pocket and talk about it.
We can get you some information.
Shotland?
I was just going to follow up on Scott's question. He stepped out, but would ask, to the point of support coming from Baton Rouge for the other campuses, would ask Chancellor Howard to comment.
I'd be delighted to do so. We had really outstanding support from the initial onset of the notice of an idea to put in a campus facility master plan through its completion. Danny worked very closely with us. We had Mr. Chatelain on our advisory committee. Danny was on the advisory committee. So every phase of what we did was informed by the main campus here, and they were extraordinarily helpful in making sure we had the best possible campus facility master plan. One of the important things for us is that we had a $6.2 million capital outlay for a drainage outflow project. It's because our campus floods all the time. And we wanted to make sure the campus facility master plan would enable us to identify the most effective use of that system so that we don't put the system here underneath the footprint of where an academic building needs to go. So now those two ideas were meshed perfectly, so they complemented instead of conflicted. So it was very important to us. But the support that we've had here was just outstanding. And Tony's office was also very useful. So between the two, we really had more than what we needed, but they really did a great job.
We're now building process such that we review their new construction and assist, and we will be matching that against their master plan to ensure that their plans are being thoughtfully carried out. And so far, it's been a great partnership.
I'll point out about that drainage project. That is a very important. It doesn't sound sexy. It's not the kind of thing you're going to get a donor to put a name on. But every time it rains real hard, the building gets flooded, then you have to redo the whole first floor again. Right. And so it is a monetary, it is an economic issue as much as it is anything else. And this is a top priority that we need to make sure that we get it funded in this round through the budget.
Right.
Any other comments, questions from the committee? Anything else from Mr. President? Anything?
I'll point out that most of our campuses do have very elaborate master plans, and they've done these over the years. Certainly in New Orleans, we've had to have an elaborate with $3.5 billion worth of facilities going up, and Bob and our chancellor in Shreveport being so land constrained in very, very small areas have had to really carefully plan. So there have been these plans, but what we haven't done as well as we are continuing to do is to share ideas, to share work together, so that we're all working collaboratively, taking advantage of the resources and efforts that all of us bring to the table. And you'll see much more of that as we go forward.
Danny, I'll ask you to get copies of the other master plans from the other campuses and distribute those to the board so they can see what is in place.
That's a pretty costly deal. They're big and there's plenty, but
We'll have them
again,
here for the next meeting, so that if people want to look at those and view those.
Are they electronic?
Hey, he's saving money, okay? So he's
Yeah, are they in electronic form?
Are they electronic?
I don't think we have electronic copies of everything. Some of them, the main campus, we do, but not all of them.
You might can see if that can be done in the 21st century. Tony, again, any other comments, overview on, great report, I appreciate it. One thing I will say is Tony and Danny are very open to new ideas and looking at all the options and better ways, because again, trying to project into the future is hard, and, you know, it takes a lot of time to plan, but things are changing, you know, on college campuses across the country, and the challenges, many of them, as you said, are the same, but I think there's new ways we can do things to use our space efficiently, watch the taxpayers' dollars, and at the same time accomplish the purpose for students and researchers. So thank you,
Indeed.
Tony.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Madam Chairman, that concludes our committee report.
Thank you very much. Well, looks like we're kind of getting done a little early, but before we break for lunch, as you know, the LSU is a leading research university, is the leading research university in the state, challenging undergrad and graduate students to achieve the highest levels of intellectual and personal development. So during today's break, and before we come back for the afternoon meeting, LSU is hosting an undergrad and graduate student research poster session. 16 posters covering a variety of STEM-related research projects have been mounted in the hallway. The undergrad researchers participated in LSU Discover, which is a faculty-led research program dedicated to promoting and enhancing undergrad research at LSU. The students' posters were selected from over 100 undergrad research posters presented during Discover Day, this spring session on the LSU campus. The graduate student researchers have presented projects at conferences throughout this country and internationally. So we're asking that everyone take a moment to visit with the students and learn about the extensive STEM research being conducted by the students and faculty at LSU. And with that, we will break for lunch and should return around 1 o'clock. Thank you.
Yeah, that one seemed, yeah, the others, they, everything's, they'll be sure they got stuff right on rock. Yeah. We have our own research goal. Always.
What's in here? What's in here?
It's an interesting list.
That's out there.
Some of which was vetted. Well, they decided we would do this.
Let me see.
Some of which they will take stuff over. Stuff we take charity money. It's not a foundation. It's state donated to charity. It sits in a bank account. Got about 27 million. She wants $16 million. They've actually threatened to sue over that account. Take, because they want to put that in the trust. The Medicare provider number, those monies were donated to the hospital. I said, well, we own the hospital. That's true. That's good. And we own the public purpose. And those monies were donated to the public purpose.
They have the lease of the building.
Correct. So they've threatened to sue, and this board has said, sue us. This is how it goes. And their board has said, we're not going to sue our partner. So Cindy's like, well, this is the first test. So I'm getting this list. Some of it is to convert office space to clinic space. That apparently everyone has agreed to, but they constructed it as office space.
You're talking about in the new building?
Yeah, it's all in the new building. It's all everything is in the new building.
Let me tell you about that. Without any discussion from anybody from LSU, the hospital and the ambulatory care building by facility planning
Fred and Roxanne. Facilities plan.
They always want to dig in. So they built 500,000 square foot.
What's the latest? Well, I hadn't heard anything other than various things on all land, other one, and I don't know anything about it. I hadn't heard anything. List of presenters. Great. Oh, how much? Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. I have one thing. Bill Dean. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Private sector. So then, not a single document. So they recreated it.
Right. I remember that.
Hey,
If you got about 5 minutes sometime today.
absolutely. I'll be out in a minute.
Good. Hey, Ray.
I don't want to have my faculty private and the poor folks being seen in another building that doesn't have the same. I'd like to see merging of some of these clinics, these programs. Yeah, it would fix it, but I need doctors off of the space. And this is what practice is today. So they, Jerry Jones, let us, I think it's put a total of about 60 offices in the entire country. And then announcing they've got too many clinic visits. Take costs without making all the money. This is disturbing to me.
So you haven't, the clinicians haven't weighed in on it. I'm not going to give her money for it. One of the requirements I've told them, is they can give me a request.
Clinicians never weighed in on the original design. They have all weighed in now on what's going where in that clinic building. They just didn't have any say so on the design.
But of this list that I got from Cindy, first of all, I feel like to some degree I'm capitalizing what they didn't put in their budget. I don't know that the board's going to approve all of it. I mean, there's some stuff in there that also looks like they're recurring license fees. They're operating costs. We're not going to fund them. But those things that truly look like it's the right capital decision. She's got everything listed as priority one. And it's like, how the hell was that determined? But one of the requirements that I gave them in this plan to prevent the lawsuit is that I need to know that what they've proposed is approved, is agreed upon by the medical staff. So I can turn to the board and say, the hospital in partnership with the medical staff have asked us for this.